All right, let's jump right in. When you hear the term Pharma 4.0, your mind probably goes straight to things like AI, big data, and automation, right? But today, we're going to look at this revolution from a completely different angle. It turns out it's not just about a tech upgrade, it's really a human one.
And the stakes? They are huge. I mean, get this. By 2030, the pharma industry is on track to spend a mind-blowing $4.5 billion on digital transformation. So yeah, this isn't some passing fad. It's a massive, all-in bet on completely reshaping the future of medicine.
But here's where it gets really interesting. You'd think for an industry that's all about precision and strict rules, the biggest challenge would be the tech, right? The code, the hardware, but it's not. The real hurdle? It's the people. It's about the culture, the mindset, and the monumental task of getting everyone on the same page, moving in a totally new direction. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the digital revolution itself. Then, why leadership is so crucial. After that, we'll get into engaging the whole team, overcoming those inevitable human hurdles, and finally, how to build a new structure that makes all this change stick.
Okay, let's kick things off with the big picture. You can't just install some fancy new software and call it a day, right? It's not like flipping a switch. Real success, it turns out, is all about managing this deep, kind of complex thing called organizational change.
And that brings us right to this key idea: organizational change management. It sounds a bit corporate, I know, but for an industry like pharma, which is, let's be honest, historically pretty conservative and super regulated, this systematic way of handling the human side of things, it's not just a nice to have. It is absolutely critical for any of this to actually work.
So, a change this big, where do you even start? Well, it has to come from the very top. I'm talking about the C-suite. Real, lasting transformation, it needs a crystal clear vision and a rock-solid commitment from the folks in charge.
And I love this image because it really shows you the DNA of a modern digital leader. It's not just one single quality. You have to be a visionary, sure, and inspiring, but you also have to be innovative, ready to adapt on the fly, and honestly, just comfortable with a bit of chaos. Having that strong, visible support from leadership, that's the #1 thing that's going to make or break these projects.
This new reality has actually created a brand new, super important role: the Chief Digital Officer, or CDO. The best way to think about the CDO is like the conductor of a digital orchestra. They're the one making sure all these different sections, from the massive amounts of clinical trial data to navigating those tricky regulations, are all playing in harmony to move drug development forward. Okay, so we've got the vision from the top, but how does that actually trickle down to everyone else? Because leadership can point the way, but it's the entire team. We're talking everyone from middle managers to the operators on the factory floor who have to turn that vision into a reality.
And this is where we hit a pretty serious roadblock. Just look at this chart. It's kind of shocking, right? Nearly half of all health professionals have what's considered inadequate digital literacy. That is a huge skills gap, and if you don't close that gap, this whole transformation thing is basically dead in the water. So you might be asking, what does good digital literacy even mean? Well, this graphic lays it out perfectly. It's so much more than just knowing how to use a computer. It's a whole mix of skills, being able to work with data, thinking innovatively, communicating clearly, and of course, keeping everything secure.
The answer then has to be a really solid, comprehensive education plan. And I'm not talking about a one-off webinar. We're talking about training that's actually tailored to different roles, ongoing literacy programs, hands-on workshops, digital forums. The goal here is to build that digital fluency across the entire company, not just in the IT department.
All right, so in any story about big change, there's always a villain, right? And in this story, it's resistance. And you know what? It's a totally normal human reaction. The secret isn't to pretend it doesn't exist, but to figure out how to manage it in a positive way.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Resistance often isn't even about the new tech, it's about how the change is being rolled out. People push back when they feel left in the dark or ignored. It really just proves that the process, how you manage the change, is everything.
So the winning strategy isn't just to silence the critics or steamroll the resistance. It's about managing it with empathy. You got to understand where it's coming from. A lot of the time, it's just fear. Fear of losing a job, skepticism that this will even work, or just being comfortable with the way things have always been done. The key is to listen to those fears and address them head-on with a clear plan and real motivation.
And here's a super practical 3-step playbook for doing exactly that.
Step 1, talk to the skeptics. Bring them into the conversation. Honestly, their worries are probably valid and can help you fix problems before they happen. Step 2, go for some quick wins. Show people some real, tangible benefits right away to build some buzz and momentum. And step 3, align your incentives. You have to reward and recognize the people who are actually jumping on board and trying this new way of working.
Okay, so let's say you've done all that. Leadership is on board, teams are getting trained, you're handling the resistance. Now what? How do you make sure all this hard work doesn't just fade away in 6 months? Well, you have to bake it into the very structure of the company.
And one of the best ways to do that is with something called a Digital Center of Excellence, or COE for short. Now, this isn't just another silo or department. Think of it more like a central command hub, staffed with experts from all over the company, whose whole job is to drive these digital projects and build skills everywhere for the long haul.
And the whole point of a COE is to empower everybody. You can see it in this diagram here. It's this continuous loop. They innovate new ideas, they connect different teams that might not normally talk to each other, and they share what works so everyone gets smarter. It's all about breaking down those walls that slow everything down.
And this is the grand prize. When you finally get all these pieces working together, the strong leadership, the engaged teams, and smart structures like a COE, that's when you unlock what's called the digital opportunity. We're talking improvements across the board, from speeding up R&D to creating a way better experience for patients.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. When we imagine the future of medicine, is it possible that the biggest breakthroughs won't come from the code we write, but from the culture we build? Maybe it's less about the algorithms and more about our ability to create organizations that are truly agile, collaborative, and ready for whatever comes next.